Amena was a 17-year-old boy who lived in the village of Aquella. The village was lively, with people selling fruits, clothes, and all sorts of goods in the crowded market. Children ran and played, but Amena wasn't like them. His life wasn't as joyful or carefree. His mother had been sick for as long as he could remember, and his father had passed away when Amena was just a little boy. Life in Aquella wasn't easy for Amena. With no father to provide for them and his mother too weak to work, they had barely any money. Most days they went hungry, and Amena could hear his mother coughing late into the night. The medicines she needed were expensive, and Amena didn't know how he could help her. One day, when Amena was younger, he was walking through the market, his stomach rumbling with hunger. He had no money and no food at home. As he passed a food stall, the scent of roasted meat filled the air, making his hunger even worse. He stood there, staring at the food, wishing he could just have a little, but he knew he couldn't afford it. Then something happened. The man who was selling the food turned away to talk to a customer. Amena's heart raced. His eyes darted around and he noticed no one was watching. Without thinking, he reached out, grabbed a piece of meat, and slipped it into his pocket. His hands shook as he quickly walked away, his heart pounding in his chest. That night, Amena ate the meat in silence. His mother didn't ask where it came from, and Amena didn't tell her. But deep down he knew what he had done was wrong. Yet, for the first time in a long while, his stomach was full. From that day on, stealing became a way of life for Amena. It started with small things: food, coins, or little trinkets. At first, he felt guilty, but the guilt faded when he saw his mother's smile after he bought her the medicine she needed. Amena convinced himself that it was okay. He wasn't stealing for fun. He was doing it for his mother. As the years passed, Amena became skilled at picking pockets. He learned how to move silently through the crowded market, how to slip his hand into someone's pocket without them noticing, and how to disappear before they realized what had happened. He never got caught, and no one ever suspected him. In the village, he was just another quiet boy, taking care of his sick mother. But as Amena grew older, things became harder. His mother's health worsened, and the medicine became more expensive. Amena found himself stealing more often, and not just for food or medicine anymore. He started to take bigger risks, targeting wealthier people who passed through the village. He told himself it was necessary. He had to do whatever it took to survive. One day, while walking through the market, Amena spotted a man wearing fine clothes and carrying a heavy bag. The man looked like he had plenty of money, and Amena's heart quickened. This could be the score that would solve all his problems, at least for a while. He followed the man through the busy streets, keeping his distance until the moment was right. When the man stopped at a stall to buy something, Amena moved closer. His fingers slipped into the man's pocket and pulled out a small pouch. It was heavier than most, and Amena's excitement grew. He quickly tucked it away and disappeared into the crowd before the man even noticed. Later, in a quiet alley, Amena opened the pouch. His eyes widened at the sight of gold coins, more than he had ever seen in his life. This money could buy food, medicine, and even clothes for his mother. He felt a surge of relief, as if the weight of the world had been lifted from his shoulders. But along with the relief came a strange feeling in his chest, something like fear. For the first time in a long time, Amena realized how far he had come from that hungry boy in the market. He wasn't just stealing food anymore, he was taking from people who worked hard for their money. It was no longer about survival, it was about greed. And deep down, Amena knew that if he kept going, it would only get worse. As the days passed, Amena tried to push those thoughts away. He used the money he had stolen to care for his mother, but the guilt kept creeping in. He couldn't sleep at night, haunted by the faces of the people he had stolen from, and with each theft, the emptiness inside him grew. One morning, as Amena walked through the village, he overheard people talking about a recent robbery. They didn't know who the thief was, but they were angry, and the village leaders were looking for someone to blame. Amena felt a chill run down his spine. He knew it was only a matter of time before someone suspected him. That night, Amena sat by his mother's bedside, watching her sleep. Her breathing was shallow and her face was pale. She needed more medicine, but Amena didn't have enough money left. He knew what he had to do, but this time the thought of stealing filled him with dread. The next day, Amena returned to the market. He saw a man counting coins near a stall and his old instincts kicked in, but as he moved closer, something inside him stopped him. He couldn't do it. Not this time. He turned and walked away, feeling defeated and lost. For days, Amena stayed away from the market, unsure of what to do. His mother's condition worsened, and he knew he was running out of time. He needed the money, but he couldn't bring himself to steal again. The guilt was too much. One afternoon, as he sat by the river thinking of his mother, he realized the terrible truth. He had become trapped in a life of stealing, and there was no way out. No matter what he did, the village would never forgive him if they found out, and even if he stopped stealing, the guilt would never leave him. On a cold, rainy evening, Amena returned home to find his mother breathing weakly. Her time was running out, and Amena was powerless to save her. As he held her hand, tears streaming down his face, he realized that all his efforts, all the stealing, all the lies, had been for nothing. His mother passed away that night, and Amena was left alone in the world. He had sacrificed everything to save her, but in the end, it wasn't enough. The weight of his actions pressed down on him, and he knew that his life could never be the same. With nothing left to live for, Amena wandered through the village, avoiding the people he once knew. His heart was heavy with sorrow, regret, and shame. The once skilled pickpocket had become a shadow of himself, a boy lost in a world of his own making. In the end, Amena learned the hardest lesson of all. No matter how far you run, you can never escape the choices you make. And as the sun set over the village of Aquella, Amena disappeared into the night, never to return.